I want to go back to the J. Pious Barber. Of course, in our relationship, you've always talked about that, but just for somebody who may not be familiar, so talk about what that meant, what it was, and how and why so many of these great preachers of our tradition went through J. Pious Barber.
If you went to Crozer Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania, and you were African American, you went through J. Pious Barber. And most biographers who write about Dr. King will include J. Pious Barber. Richard Leisher, for example, the homiletician at Duke, in his book, The Preacher King, gives a whole lot of credit to Dr. Barber. Dr. Barber pastored the Calvary Baptist Church, 1614 West 2nd Street in Chester, Pennsylvania. And I remember his telephone number, area code 215 Tremont 46717. I would call him every night. He was brilliant, very gruff. He was a Morehouse man. And he was the kind of man who would help you with your preaching. For example, when you would preach for him at Calvary, he would sit and he would take a piece of paper and grade you. He would grade you on your introduction, and this was one of his favorite words. He would grade you on his content, and then he would grade you on what he would call, what you call celebration. Right. He called climax. And he would sit down with you following the sermon back in his study and critique your sermon. And he would have no problem critiquing your sermon. And there was not a black preacher who ever came through Crozer who did not pass through the mentoring of J. Pious Barber. There's a book out now, I told you about it, on the seminary years of Dr. King called The Seminarian, and the author escapes me now, but I just finished reading the book. But he spends a whole lot of time talking about the impact of J. Pious Barber on Martin Luther King Jr. I remember once having a conversation with Dr. Barber, and he said that when Dr. King had come to prominence, he happened to come through Chester. In fact, when Dr. King came back from Oslo, having received the Nobel Peace Prize, on his way back to Atlanta, he and Mrs. King stopped in Chester. Now, I don't remember as to whether or not this was the occasion of this particular story, but there was an occasion when Dr. King had come to prominence, when he stood in Dr. Barber's office and there was a full-length mirror. And Dr. Barber said that Dr. King stood and looked in that mirror and asked the question, who am I? That it was never my desire to ever be a civil rights leader. He always wanted to be a preacher in the tradition of Benjamin Elijah Mays and Mordecai Wyatt Johnson, and that somehow or another, under the aegis of God, he ended up the Martin Luther King Jr. that history knows, but that was never his intent. And he always kept in touch with Dr. Barber. And there was never a major decision that Martin King ever made that he did not call and talk to Dr. Barber about. Wow. Not one.
Tell me about the Sunday night gathering that over at his house.
I chuckle because on Sunday night, Dr. Harold Carter's broadcast from Baltimore, Maryland would come on at 9:05 at night. And WBAL radio, which was a powerful station coming out of Baltimore, after 9 o'clock, that radio beam shot up the East Coast. All the way, it would go south as far as Richmond, and it would go north as far as Nova Scotia. And on Sunday night, if you were near radio, You turn on 1100 WBAL AM, and you'd catch Harold Carter preaching. And he just had a melodious voice. He sounded like Dr. King. And on Sunday nights, there were occasions when I would drive from Westchester to Chester, and we would sit and listen to Dr. Carter preach. One particular Sunday night, I drove from Westchester to Chester, and we listened to Dr. Carter preach. So after the sermon, Dr. Barber, who had a very gruff voice, called Carter. I want to talk to him. So I dialed Dr. Carter's number, and I said, Doc, I'm here with Dr. Barber, and he wants to talk with you. So I handed the phone to Dr. Barber, and Dr. Barber said, Carter, we just listened to your sermon, and Booth said it was absolutely nothing. I hollered, I said, Dr. Carter, I did not say that. I sounded like a little kindergarten student. And he just got the biggest kick out of that and hung up the phone. So when I got back to Westchester, I called I said, Dr. Carter, listen, I did not say that. He said, I know you didn't say that. I know Dr. Barber was having fun. But that was the kind of person that he was. That was the kind of person he was.